The horror of those days was captured in the film The Killing Fields. He was one of the few Westerners who was able to witness, to photograph a country without a future.
There was a point where not only was there nobody in Phnom Penh to laugh and to sing, but there was nobody in the countryside who was happy, and there was no one in the country who was living in peace.
Tonight, David Kennerly's return to that land of despair and discovery that a people can emerge from a Holocaust and rediscover beauty, religion, and art. Tonight, Cambodia, the Killing Fields revisited.
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
We have talked occasionally in staff meetings about doing a series of nightlines on hellholes of the world, places so bad that you can't but worry about the human condition and be grateful for your own. Cambodia was, for too long, one of those places where a bunch of maniacal ideologues who called themselves the Khmer Rouge systematically shot, beat, starved, and worked to death 1.5 million of their own people. Prime targets were those with any connection to an outside culture, with any attachment to Cambodia's own culture, religious figures, or intellectuals. Such categories were loosely defined. Anyone with glasses, for example, was suspect in that glasses suggested literacy. Just days before Cambodia's capital, Phnom Penh, fell to the Khmer Rouge, a young American photographer, David Kennerly, arrived on the scene. He had already won the Pulitzer Prize for photojournalism and was, in 1975, working for President Ford as White House photographer. This is his story of what he saw and photographed then and the amazing recovery that is underway and that he shot for us on videotape now.
There was no way to get into Phnom Penh. It was surrounded by the Khmer Rouge. And because I was on a mission from the President of the United States, they were obliged, the government people were obliged to try to help me out under direct orders. And I went into Air America, which is, has always been known as the CIA's airline. And I said, look, I don't want to order anybody to take me, but I really would like to go to Phnom Penh, and is anybody up for it? And this one pilot kind of stepped forward. He says, I'll take you in. He said, but I'm not stopping in front of the terminal. You're going to have to hop out. I said, I'll slow down. And that's what happened. That's how I got to Cambodia.
Officials said it is feared that complete chaos may erupt in Phnom Penh as the Khmer Rouge insurgents tighten their noose around the city.
It was late March of 1975. Phnom Penh was filled with refugees. I mean, the place probably had tripled in size because people had come in from the countryside and to escape the fighting. 2 weeks later, it fell to the Khmer Rouge. I didn't have a lot of time when I got to Phnom Penh. In the midst of all the chaos around me, there were these quiet moments of suffering. And that's really what attracts me as a photographer. I think it's more telling to show faces of people who are victims of the war. And that's what I did. At that point in Phnom Penh, humanity was a distant rumor. That people were just trying to stay alive. And they went from that point of trying to stay alive to, in fact, hundreds of thousands of them dying. This little girl is a symbol of Cambodia's suffering. Her face has haunted me ever since I saw her. I think all the horrors of the war there were summed up in her face. Cambodia really was on the edge of the abyss, because even as bad as it appeared when I went in, it got a lot worse. President Ford was stunned when he saw the pictures. I remember he was sitting there and he went through them each one at a time. In fact, I put these pictures up, had them blown up and replaced all of the colorful photos of the president and the rallies and this and that, put them up in the corridors of the White House. much to the chagrin of a lot of staffers who felt it kind of brought them down. And I said it should bring you down. It should sober you up to realize this kind of that this event is taking place. When I returned recently, the drive into the city center was actually one of the most dramatic instances for me. The last time I was there was hardly anybody on the road. The Khmer Rouge had actually cut that road at some point. Now, what I was seeing were people, you know, riding motorcycles, and there's some new cars, and the attitude is so relaxed. I mean, it's back to a thriving Asian city. The idea of seeing these people laughing and walking and talking and carrying on for what would be a fairly conventional day-to-day life was extraordinary, because there was a point where not only was there nobody in Phnom Penh to laugh and to sing, but there was nobody in the countryside who was happy, and there was no one in the country who was living in peace. It's remarkable, the fact that people are going into markets and buying everything from bracelets to bugs. You know, there are certain things about Asia that remain a mystery to me. People that eat bugs are one of them. I ran into Ed Miles in the central market in Phnom Penh.
I had come over here to Cambodia in 1990 and traveled around a little bit. I'd been to the hospitals in some of the rehabilitation center and saw how bad the situation was as far as medical care and rehabilitation. I mean, it was non-existent really at that time. And I thought that a prosthetic project would be a good thing to do.
Ed Miles was an Army captain, and he had both his legs. As he said, I got blown sky high by a Viet Cong booby trap, and when I landed, I was missing 2 legs and an eye, and he almost died. And the fact that a person like that would return to Southeast Asia is an extraordinary act of courage. It's so difficult for anybody to get around in Cambodia under good circumstances. This man has to cross the river every day on a ferry to get to this little village where he has his plant. And he doesn't complain. He's a straight ahead kind of a person. What he's done is get people to come together to start this facility. It's a Vietnam Veterans Association who have sponsored this prosthetics factory where they're making essentially legs, because most of the injuries are people who've had 1 or 2 legs blown off by mines. When I went into this place where they were making the prosthetics, I saw these shelves of feet. And the startling thing about that image is that every one of those is for someone who lost a foot. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. One of the beauties of this profession that I'm in is being able to capture a moment on his face where he's watching someone take their first step.
When we come back, more of photojournalist David Kennerly's remarkable journey to Cambodia.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by Allstate.
Of all the things around your house that need batteries, there's one thing that needs a good, fresh battery most of all. See your Allstate agent for a free home fire safety brochure. And please, check the battery in your smoke detector often.
Hey, if you thought $1 didn't go far these days, check out the huge Ace Dollar Day sale.
Glue and gloves.
Bags.
And bulbs.
Cords and coffee filters.
And more for just $1.
Each.
It goes to show you, Ace is America's place for better value. Hey, there's still more room back there.
Can you afford the great fit and comfort of LensCrafters glasses? Of course you can, because our wide selection of comfortable frames starts at under $50. Now we have the prices you want and the perfect fit you need.
LensCrafters. Find a lower price, we'll match it, guaranteed.
This week, the Pope comes to America. Tomorrow, Americans never bought the Pope's hardline against birth control. What makes him think he can turn them around now? Watch World News tonight.
Chemical dependency? Call the Alcohol and Drug Crisis Line. Family problems? Codependency? We're ready to help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Relapse? Work-related problems? Call 373-8700 for a free confidential consultation with a qualified mental health professional. Help for alcohol and drug dependency, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Call now.
A very few thoughtful and discriminating people in our fair city have chosen the luxury, great ride, and considerable creature comforts of the Lincoln Mark 8, the Lincoln Continental, and the paragon of luxury, the Lincoln Town Car from Beaman Lincoln Mercury. Some say what you drive won't really change your life. Balderdash, you only have one life to live. Why not live it in a Lincoln? From Beaman Lincoln Mercury, 2300 Franklin Road.
Cambodia, which is a small and weak country, has tried to keep its powerful neighbors off balance by forming uneasy alliances with other neighbors. Almost certainly its least favorite neighbor is Vietnam. Most Cambodians do not like the Vietnamese, even those born in Cambodia. That was just one of the complications facing the United Nations when it sent 22,000 troops and spent $2 billion setting up a national election earlier this year. Amazingly, though, it seems to have worked. Again, to appreciate where Cambodia is today, you have to remember how far it has come. David Kennerly has documented both phases.
I've covered a lot of wars, and the best pictures I've taken have been of children. And when I say the best pictures, they're not the prettiest pictures. They're probably the most disturbing pictures, because these are the children are the ones who suffer the most. They didn't start the wars. They didn't lob the shells into a village. Every one of these faces means something to me. When I took their picture, it was like, you can't laugh off images like this. And you want to see a day where someone like me is put out of business if that's how I'm making my living. I came upon this rather remarkable woman. She struck me as a kind of Julie Andrews come to Phnom Penh. You know, it was one of the most expressive women I think I've ever seen in my life. And she was teaching Cambodian kids teaching them harmony. The fact that they couldn't speak English really wasn't a problem. It was that there was no concept of harmony.
The steps forward are unbelievable. We've done a lot of concerts with them. And when I look back or listen to the tapes of the first concert I did with them, I blush. And nowadays I'm quite happy after a concert. I think they've moved on quite a long way.
When you look around and you see young people, you wonder, where are their parents? Was the father still around? Anybody in their 20s would have been very possibly missing a relative or two or three. Across the river is a village filled principally with Vietnamese. The Vietnamese and the Cambodians have never gotten along. They have always been at war. Vietnam has occupied Cambodia. There have been atrocities committed on both sides. So there are very deep, hateful feelings that run through that society. In this village, these people really had nothing to do. But these are people who are not wanted by the rest of the population of Cambodia. And they're in a peculiar position because they have really nowhere to go. It's hard to go home if you weren't born at home. Everywhere I looked, there were people just kind of hanging out. One of the hopeful signs was little children were learning how to read and write. I hope they also learn not to kill each other like their parents did. It's dramatic that there is freedom in Cambodia to practice your religion, and that was practically eradicated during the regime of the Khmer Rouge. Cambodia is principally a Buddhist country, and now there are monks every place, and part of the imagery of Cambodia is watching the people go down the line and put money in the bags of the Buddhists. The leader of the peace movement in Cambodia is called the Gandhi of Cambodia, who's a Buddhist monk, and I photographed one of his many gatherings, and it's not only dramatic photographically, but it's dramatic for what it represents. I think probably one of the reasons Cambodia has come back as dramatically and as positively is that people believe in something. The last time I was in Cambodia, it was anarchy in the streets, but now it's been replaced by democracy, and you see examples of that. Prince Sihanouk is a complex man in a complex society, and he's one of the world's colorful people. He wasn't actually running for the election as one of his sons, one of his many sons, was actually heading this party, which ended up winning the majority of the votes. But Prince Sihanouk is the guy. He's the man in charge. The UN-sponsored elections really did work. When the notion that you could go and vote started to sink in about what it meant, people voted. When the votes came in from the provinces, they were meticulously painted on this big board in the middle of Phnom Penh. And the UN, of course, was ever present in the background, in the foreground. The fact is they oversaw a democratic election, and it worked without too many problems. That's astounding.
We'll be back with more of David Kennerly's return to Cambodia in a moment.
It may surprise you to learn who, over 30 years ago, was the first car maker to build cars with seat belts, to make safety glass standard, the first U.S. car maker to offer anti-lock brakes, and who today offers more models with dual airbags than any other manufacturer. That company is Ford Motor Company.
We're committed to making safety innovation an important part of quality.
Ford Motor Company. Quality is job one. It's working. It's working.
Ever wonder what happens to your initial investment when you buy certain mutual funds through a broker and pay front-end fees? Well, by the time they charge you sales loads and account fees, it's actually costing you hundreds of dollars before you start. But now there's a better way. At Charles Schwab, you can choose from 200 well-known no-load mutual funds with proven track records.
You pay no loads and no transaction fees.
So if you want all of your money to work for you,
maybe it's time to come to Schwab.
Tired of falling interest rates? Next time, how to double the return on your savings safely.
Plus the airline seat of the future and Gregory Hines.
On Good Morning America.
Health Break, presented by Tux.
Want to reduce your appetite? A solution that's easy to swallow after this.
Why is Tux medicated pads the brand of hemorrhoid relief hospitals trust most? Because when hemorrhoids flare up, Tux provides soothing, cooling relief on contact. Tux, the brand hospitals trust most.
If you're looking for itch and pain relief from bug bites and allergic rash, look for Advanced Formula Benadryl Cream, now with soothing aloe. Benadryl stops both itch and pain, even the strongest hydrocortisones can't. Benadryl Cream and Spray.
Doctors say that many people who think they're craving food are really just thirsty. The best solution? Sip lots of water, about 64 ounces a day. Since the water fills your stomach, it also helps you lose weight. Clear enough? I'm Jim Palmer for Health Break.
Well, here at Bell Ford, they're not like other dealers. They're not trying to shove something down your throat. They're kind of family orientated. They want to get to know you and you know them and sit down and talk with them, and you're not under any pressure at all here. What impressed me most was the price. I found out that they were right on the money. They gave me a good price for my vehicles I was trading in, and incidentally, I bought 2 here.
Real people, real prices. Bell Ford. It's what one price buying is all about.
The pictures that David Kennerly took in Phnom Penh back in 1975 were so striking that they haunted everyone who saw them, including the photographer.
I went to, it was an unfinished hotel. It was about half completed. At the time, it became home to at least 1,000 refugees. I saw a little glint of light, and it was a dog tag that this child was wearing. And the face of that young girl epitomized everything I'd ever seen, every expression of despair that I'd ever witnessed on all the different wars that I covered. And in the back of my mind, I thought maybe I could find this girl. The party that won the election had their own television station. And so I went to them, and they thought this was a good story. And apparently, a lot of people go on TV to try to find lost relatives. And so they let me. They thought it was a good story. This has always been in the back of my mind. I've always been plagued with this question about trying to find out what happened to this little girl, you know. I showed the picture. We talked about where I'd taken the picture, when I took it. This girl would probably be 22 years old now. And sat back and waited for the phone to ring. Nobody called. That was very chilling for me. This feeling, this dreadful feeling came up, which was, I wonder if all those people were dead that I photographed over there. This memorial is right in the middle of this area where thousands of people were killed and buried in mass graves. And the skulls of these people are now kept, some of them are kept on display. And it's an absolutely horrifying sight. When I looked at the skulls, I couldn't help but feel that maybe that little girl was out there among them. And I thought, is this how I'm going to find the little girl? And I'll never know it, of course, there's no way. But that was frightening to me. There is a happy ending to this story. I found the little Cambodian girl in the face of hundreds of other Cambodian children, that these kids have a chance. She probably didn't have a chance. I discovered a lady who was teaching ancient Khmer dance to a whole new generation of kids. She lost her father, she lost aunts and uncles, and a brother and sister to the Khmer Rouge. Her way of getting back at them is to teach young people about the Cambodian culture. And she's doing it not through the barrel of a gun, but she's doing it as a teacher, as an instructor. Dance means something. Each little motion of the hand has significance, whether it's love or anger or pain. Dancing tells a story about the history of the country. It's passed down from generation to generation, and that string was almost broken by the Khmer Rouge. During the Khmer Rouge, dancing was not only banned, but the dancers were killed, if you can imagine. Out of everything I did, I think it was the most hopeful note that I saw, because it really did mean that things were coming back to life.
Cambodia is still a desperately difficult place to work and live. The political stability that appears to have taken hold today is a fragile thing at best, but it was so unexpected, and things in Cambodia have been so much worse for so long that it embodies the resilience of the human spirit. It is worth bearing witness to the fact that even in the worst of places, things do get better. I'll be back in a moment.